You're not here to learn how to impress women. You're here to learn how to protect yourself. Because the truth is simple. Most men tolerate far too much. Not because they're weak, not because they lack value, but because they were never taught where the line should be. Modern society has convinced men that endurance equals virtue, that if you're patient enough, understanding enough, selfless enough, you'll finally deserve love. But Machiavelli would have laughed in your face, because he knew what most men never learn. Patience is a virtue, but too much patience, that's just self-betrayal in slow motion. So today, we flip the script. You're here to stop betraying yourself, to understand the subtle, invisible behaviors that quietly steal your power. Not with anger, not with ego, but with the calm clarity of a man who knows his worth. Because here's the brutal truth. A man who tolerates everything will end up with nothing. That's why today, we're going to expose 8 behaviors no man should ever tolerate from a woman. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Because a man who tolerates everything will eventually be left with nothing. Stay until the end, because each point builds your emotional armor, and if you miss even one, you'll stay vulnerable to the wrong women and invisible to the right ones. Let's begin. 1. Disrespect. Disguised as jokes. Disrespect never starts loud. It starts with harmless jokes, small digs to test your self-respect. Imagine this. On a date, she smiles and says, "Wow, you're shorter than I expected. Cute though." Most men laugh it off. They think staying cool means tolerating it. But what's really happening? She's checking your boundaries. Machiavelli warned, injuries must be inflicted at once so that their effect is minimized. Meaning, if you let the first disrespect slide, you invite more. Here's how you keep your power. Stay calm. Don't joke back. Simply say, "I don't joke about respect." Then change the subject. No anger, no drama, just presence. In that moment, you show her. You respect yourself first. And a man who does that? He doesn't chase validation. He commands it. 2. Emotional manipulation through guilt. Guilt is the softest, deadliest tool of control. It doesn't command. It makes you feel wrong for standing up for yourself. Example. She cancels plans. You're annoyed. Suddenly, you're too sensitive. You're making a big deal out of nothing. The focus shifts. You're now defending your emotions instead of addressing her actions. Machiavelli warned, "A wise prince learns to recognize the noose before he feels the rope." Translation: if you're apologizing for how you feel, you're already caught. Here's how you keep your frame. Never argue about your feelings. Clarify your boundaries. Say, "I don't feel bad for respecting my time." Then let silence do the rest. If she keeps using guilt, she's not looking for partnership. She's testing how much of yourself you'll give away. 3. Weaponizing silence for control. Silence can heal, but in the wrong hands, it controls. When a woman ignores your calls, withdraws affection, or freezes you out after small conflicts, she's not solving a problem. She's pulling the leash. Example: you express a need. She goes silent. You wait. The tension grows. She knows you'll crack first. You always do. Machiavelli taught, one must be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. Silence is her trap. Don't walk in. Here's your power move. You don't chase, you don't explain. You answer once with clarity. Then you detach. Focus on your goals. Let her feel your absence. A man who doesn't fear her silence becomes untouchable because he can't be led on a leash. 4. Testing boundaries through innocent disrespect. Most women won't attack your frame head-on. They'll test it with small, quiet disrespect. Late arrivals, interrupting you mid-sentence, flaking without apology, not loud, but calculated. Picture this. First date. She shows up 30 minutes late. No excuse, no sorry. Most men stay chill. That's a mistake. Every tolerated disrespect teaches her, this man has no line. Machiavelli's insight, it is much safer to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. Not fear through aggression, but through unshakable standards. Here's how you hold frame. Stay calm, no lectures, no ego. Just say, noted. No anger, just clarity. If it happens again, withdraw your time and energy. Scarcity creates respect because men who accept everything lose everything. 5. Using emotional highs to cover red flags. One of the subtlest manipulations is the emotional roller coaster. Extreme affection, intense connection, followed by disrespect. She floods you with affection when you please her, but the moment you express discomfort, the warmth disappears. In relationships, you share a boundary. Suddenly, she's distant. But when you conform, she's all love again. This isn't random. It's training. Training you to link obedience with being loved. Machiavelli's timeless lesson. Benefits should be conferred gradually. Injuries should be inflicted at once. Love bombing is the benefit. Silent punishment is the injury. Watch the order. That's where the game reveals itself. Here's how you stay in control. Detach from moments. Observe patterns. If her affection only shows up when you comply, it's not connection. It's control. Your compass must be your standards, not her mood swings. Stand firm. Stay calm. Keep your power. 6. Gaslighting your intuition. Gaslighting doesn't need to scream, "You're crazy." It whispers softer attacks. "You're overthinking." "You're too sensitive." "You're making this up." In long-term relationships, you raise a valid concern, like her texting an ex. She doesn't address it. Instead, she flips it. "I didn't know you were this insecure." Now you're defending your sanity, not her actions. Classic deflection. Machiavelli's reminder. The vulgar crowd is always taken by appearances. The same applies here. Gaslighting attacks your perception because your clarity is dangerous to her control. Here's how you stay untouchable. Don't argue over feelings. Don't seek permission to feel what you feel. Stick to facts. State the boundary. Stand by it. Calmly. Unshaken. A man anchored in his own mind cannot be swayed by emotional tricks. 7. Shaming your masculinity. In today's world, subtle attacks on masculinity are everywhere. You're too aggressive. Real men are more sensitive. Dominance is toxic. It's not an honest debate. It's a frame battle. In a relationship, you lead decisively. She reframes it. You're controlling. You state a strong opinion. Suddenly you're problematic. This isn't about kindness. It's about softening your edge, so you're easier to guide. Machiavelli's truth cuts through the noise. A prince must learn how not to be good. Virtue is contextual. When used against you, it becomes a weapon of control. Here's how you flip the script. Stop begging for moral approval. Your masculine traits, leadership, decisiveness, ambition, are not sins. You don't explain them. You live them. Lead with calm certainty, because a man who respects his own nature commands respect without asking. 8. Punishing you for having a life outside of her. A healthy relationship encourages individuality, but some women will punish you for investing in your mission, your friends, your hobbies. Not with open fights, but with guilt trips, passive aggression, subtle sabotage. In real life, you cancel casual plans to prep for a major project. Suddenly, you're told, work matters more to you than love. But this isn't about love. It's about pulling you off your path. Machiavelli would smirk at this illusion. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand. She's reacting to how it feels, not to what is true. Perception has become her weapon. Here's how you hold your ground. Stay calm. Stay unmoved. Affirm your priorities without apology. My mission is non-negotiable. You're welcome to be part of it, but never instead of it. Because the man who stays loyal to his path becomes untouchable, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. And ironically, that's when she respects you most. If you're still here, you've already done what most ignore. You've given your attention to what truly matters. Not noise, not quick fixes, but the kind of truth that transforms you. That alone puts you ahead. But now, listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just advice, it's a mirror. If you reflect on it, if you let it sink into your bones, it will change how you see yourself, how you move, and how the world responds to you. This is where the shift begins. Most men never realize this until it's too late. Every boundary you fail to set becomes a silent lesson, one she teaches you in regret. Not with force, not with cruelty, but with small, invisible patterns that chip away at your dignity. It doesn't come with a slap. It comes with subtle moments, a disrespectful comment you ignore, a manipulation you brush off, a need you suppress to avoid conflict. And each time you let it slide, you're not being patient. You're not being noble. You're being trained. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw how power is rarely taken by violence. More often, it's surrendered through small concessions, through habits of self-betrayal. His writings weren't about oppressing others. They were about recognizing when you're being quietly conquered, not by armies, but by your own blindness. The woman testing you isn't your enemy. She's seeking clarity. She's looking for a man who knows where he stands, who doesn't flinch, who commands respect by existing. Because in nature, softness without structure is not respected, not in politics, not in war, not in relationships. That's why Machiavelli's deepest lesson was never about domination. It was about vision, knowing exactly where you stand and never bargaining with that foundation. He knew this truth. The man who holds clarity cannot be controlled, not by fear, not by guilt, not by subtle manipulation disguised as love. Imagine this image. A king doesn't lose his crown because an enemy storms his castle. He loses it when he forgets to wear it. His enemies don't dethrone him. His own negligence does. And this is what happens to men every day. They lose their sovereignty not because women are malicious, but because they stopped acting like kings. They allowed small compromises to become habits. They traded respect for temporary peace. They let guilt replace clarity. From this moment on, your path is simple. Draw your lines early. Make them clear, firm, and unapologetic. Not with anger, but with calm certainty. Defend them quietly, consistently. You don't need to raise your voice to protect your peace. And when necessary, detach. Walk away not to punish, but to preserve yourself. This is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of sovereignty. Sovereignty is not noise. It doesn't demand attention. It is the silent aura of a man who has chosen himself, regardless of approval. Machiavelli's true gift was not teaching men to conquer others, but to stop being conquered by their own weaknesses. The man who knows his worth doesn't need to fight every battle. He chooses his wars with precision. He understands that not every reaction deserves his energy. Because here's the final truth. A woman will mirror the standards you enforce. If you tolerate disrespect, she will give you disrespect. If you hold your ground with calm, she will either rise to meet your standard or remove herself. Either way, you win. Because real power is not controlling her, it's never needing to. The moment you understand this, you step into a different category of man. You become untouchable, not because you fight harder, but because you've stopped kneeling for things beneath you. This is the Machiavellian way. Sovereignty, clarity, quiet strength, and now it's yours. One last message for those who truly want to change their life. For those who are ready to detach from the 99% and play a different game. What I'm working on will change the way women see you and the way you see yourself. It's coming soon, so stay tuned. If this spoke to you, don't just keep it in your head. Write a comment, even just a few words. It helps you remember, and it might help someone else too. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, and share this with someone who, in your eyes, needs it right now. Just trust your instinct. We're all trying to get clearer, more solid inside. So let's build minds that don't break.